Hey folks, this is a makeup video for your day 3 notes for summer skills. So this is going to be on a new program. So this program is going to monitor your progress. So you do have to watch the video from start to finish. The program emails me to let me know that you have finished. All right, so without further ado, we're going to jump right into it. All right, so day 3 notes. Today we're going to be talking about all the different types of triangles. Our goal for today, given information about a triangle, you will be able to classify the triangle and use its properties to find its missing angles and missing sides. All right, we're going to start out pretty basic, and by the end of today's lesson, you're going to be having word problems where you're going to have to draw your own picture and then use the triangles to find missing angles and missing sides. All right, so jumping right into it. So our vocabulary for today, first off, the basic idea of a triangle. A triangle is a three-sided shape with interior angles that add to 180 degrees. When you name a triangle, we use the triangle symbol, and then you just name using 3 letters. It does not matter which letter you start with, or if you go clockwise or counterclockwise. So for instance, I'm going to call this triangle C, B, A. All right, next up, the first type of triangle that we can have is a scalene triangle. Now, a scalene triangle is a triangle with no congruent sides and no congruent angles. So nothing is equal in this scalene triangle. So which could be the measure of the third side? So if you look at the picture, we already have an 8, we already have a 10. If we want it to be scalene, we cannot repeat any numbers. So the only option here would be 6 centimeters. Okay, next up, isosceles triangle. An isosceles triangle is a triangle that has 2 congruent sides and 2 congruent angles. So in this picture, if GJ is congruent to HJ, and we know they're congruent because we see these little dashes. That's how you mark congruent sides. So which angles are going to be congruent? Well, if you have 2 equal sides, it's isosceles. 2 equal sides, 2 equal angles. So the 2 equal sides are always going to point to your equal angles. So here we're going to have the 2 equal angles are going to be G and H. All right, they're always across or opposite the equal sides. All right, and finally we have equilateral triangles. An equilateral is a triangle that has 3 equal sides and 3 equal angles. So if we look at this triangle here, we have dash, 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 which means we have 3 equal sides, which means it's equilateral, 3 equal sides, 3 equal angles, so we can mark those as equal as well. All right, so what is the measure of each angle in an equilateral triangle? Well, we know that angles have 180 degrees, and if you have 3 of them that are equal, you just divide it by 3. So each of those angles is going to be 60 degrees. So we would put in 60, 60, and 60. All right, so now that we know our different types of triangles, we're going to start finding missing angles and missing sides. All right, so examples with our triangles. I'm going to zoom in here. There we go. So in number 1, which sides are congruent? So if we look at this triangle, we notice we have 2 arcs. That means you have 2 equal angles. Now, if we have 2 equal angles, that means it's isosceles. 2 equal angles, 2 equal sides. So which sides are going to be equal? Well, it's the sides that are opposite the angle. So opposite angle R, you go all the way across, that would be side ST. And then our other equal angle is angle T. So which side is opposite T? Well, that would be RS. So we mark those with dashes, or we could write out RS is congruent to ST. All right, next up, number 2. Which angles are congruent? So if we see here, we have 2 sides marked congruent. So if we have 2 equal sides, it's isosceles. 2 equal sides, 2 equal angles. So which angles are going to be equal? Well, the 2 equal sides point to your 2 equal angles. So opposite WV is angle W, and opposite side UW is angle V. So we would say angle W is congruent to angle V. All right, so let's go ahead now and start putting some angle measures into the figure. So example number 3. What is the measure of x? Well, let's look very carefully at this picture. It is a triangle, but not only is it a triangle, look carefully. We have double dashes. If we have dashes, that means those sides are equal. So think, what type of triangle has two equal sides? That's going to be an isosceles triangle. If it has two equal sides, it's also going to have two equal angles. So which two angles are going to be equal? Well, they're two angles that are opposite the two equal sides. So those little dashes point to them. So that means 68 degrees is equal to the x. So x is equal to 68 degrees. All right, next up, number 4. What is the value of x? All right, well, we only have two angles, and we know triangles add up to 180, but you need all three. So let's look carefully for other information in the picture. So what else do you see in this picture? Well, we have a dash and we have another dash. That means those two sides are congruent, which means it's isosceles. Two equal sides, two equal angles. Let's mark those equal angles. The equal angles are opposite the sides. So that would be this angle and this angle, which means our missing angle is 3x. So now that we have all three angles, we can solve for x because triangles add up to 180 degrees. So 3x plus 3x plus 4x is equal to 180. So 3 plus 3 is 6 plus 4 is going to give us 10x is equal to 180. Divide both sides by 10 and x is equal to 18. All right, next up, number 5. What is the value of x in this picture? Now, this time the measurements are on the outside of the triangle, which means they are side measures. Sides are on the outside, angles are going to be on the inside of your picture. All right, so we have two sides of a triangle. That's all we have. So let's look carefully. What other information is in this picture? Well, we have two equal angles. If we have two equal angles, that means it's isosceles. Isosceles triangles have two equal sides, two equal angles, so we mark our two sides congruent. And just like that, we have these two sides as being congruent. So we can set it up. 7x plus 5 is equal to 19. Subtract 5, we get 7x is equal to 14. Divide both sides by 7, and x is equal to 2, and we've got it. All right, next up is number 6. What is the value of y? Well, right now, y is a side, 5 is a side. Let's look carefully. We have 3 equal angles, so think, what type of a triangle is it going to be? And what does that mean about side y? Go ahead and plug your answer into the answer key. All right, hopefully you figured out that the answer is going to be y equals 5 because it is it's not isosceles, it's actually equilateral. All right, so now that we've done some basic questions, next up we're going to practice some word problems. Now, my famous phrase in geometry is, when in doubt, draw it out. A good quality picture will make it 100 times easier to answer a word problem. So when we get to word problems, the first thing we're going to do is set down our writing utensils, read it, think carefully, and then draw a picture. Okay, practice problem number 1. The perimeter of a triangle is 56 centimeters. If two sides are 17 and 20, what is the measure of the third side? Is the triangle scalene, isosceles, or equilateral? All right, so we read through the problem. We know we're talking about the sides of a triangle. However, does this question tell us what type of triangle to draw? Nope, that's actually what we're trying to figure out. So I'm just going to draw a basic triangle. All right, and I can't mark it because I don't know anything else about this triangle. Now let's fill in the details. I know that the perimeter is equal to 56, and I know that two of the sides are going to be 17 and 20. So we need to figure out the measure of the third side. Now the key idea in this problem is that we have the perimeter. Perimeter is all the sides added up. So to find the third side, the missing side, I'm going to take 56, I'm going to subtract 17, and then subtract 20. So 56 minus 17 minus 20, and we're going to get 19. So our third side is 19. So is the triangle scalene, isosceles, or equilateral? Well, none of the sides are equal, which means it is scalene. All right, next up, number 2. So set our writing stuff down. Let's read through the question. 2 angles of a triangle measure 58 and 61 degrees. What is the measure of the third angle? And is the triangle scalene, isosceles, or equilateral? So before we draw a picture, we need to ask ourselves, do we know what type of triangle it is? We do not. So we're going to just draw a basic triangle. And I can't put any details in the picture because it doesn't tell me anything. So now let's start filling in what the word problem says. 2 angles are 58 and 61. 58 degrees, 61 degrees. We want to find the measure of the third angle. Now, since we're talking about angles, we know the angles of a triangle add up to 180. So we subtract off 61, we subtract off 58, and let's see what we get. 180 minus 61 minus 58, and we get 61. So our third angle is 61 degrees. So what type of a triangle is it? Well, we have 2 equal angles, which means, it is isosceles. All right, number 3. In triangle ABC, angle B is congruent to angle A. If AB is 11 and AC is 19, what is the measure of side BC? Okay, so we read through the question once. Now, I want to ask you, do you know what type of triangle this is? Yes, we do, because of this very first sentence. In triangle ABC, angle B is equal to angle A, which means if you have 2 equal angles, what type of a triangle is it? You got it. It's isosceles. But also remember, if it has 2 equal angles, it also has 2 equal sides. So before we do anything else, I want to put into my picture as much detail as possible. I know it's isosceles, so it has 2 equal angles and 2 equal sides. We mark everything. So now that we have all the details in the picture, let's reread it and start marking. So we have B is equal to A. So that means angle B and angle A have to go where your congruent angles are. So that means the only letter left for the top is angle C. All right, let's fill in a little bit more. AB is 11 and AC is 19. So what is the measure of side BC? Well, let's look carefully. Side BC has a dash, which means it has to be equal to the other side with a dash. So that means side BC is 19. Okay, let's take a look at number 4 then. In a triangle dog, angle D is congruent to angle G. DO is 10, DG is 20. What is the perimeter of triangle dog? Okay, before we do anything, ask yourself, do you know what type of triangle this is? Yes, we do. This first sentence tells you exactly what type of triangle it is. If it has 2 angles, it's also 2 equal angles, it's also going to have 2 equal sides because it is isosceles. So we start by drawing an isosceles triangle, 2 equal angles, 2 equal sides. Now D is congruent to G, so those have to be your 2 bottom angles, which then leaves O for the top angle. Now that we have our correct drawing, let's fill in the information. DO is 10 and DG is 20. We want to find the perimeter, but before we can find the perimeter, we need to know all of the sides. And we're still missing side DO. But side DO has a dash, which means it matches with the other side with a dash. So that means side DO has to be 10. So now to find the perimeter, we're just going to add all of the sides together. 10 plus 10 plus 20, we're going to get 40, and we've got it. Okay, next up, number 5. In triangle CAT, angle A is congruent to angle T, and AT is 25, and the perimeter is 65. What is the measure of side CT? All right, so we have to draw a picture. But before we draw a picture, do we know what type of triangle this is? We sure do, because it tells us that we have two equal angles. Two equal angles, two equal sides, it's isosceles. So let's draw it out. Two equal angles, two equal sides. We're going to have A, T are your two equal angles, which means letter C is left for the top. Now they told us that AT is equal to 25, and they told us that the perimeter is equal to 65. So what is going to be the measure of side CT? Well, in this case, we're missing two sides. However, those two sides are going to be equal to each other. So we're going to take the perimeter, 65. We're going to subtract off the 25, the side that we already know. So if we subtract that off, that leaves 40. So we have 40 left over, but we have two sides that are missing, and those two sides have to be equal. So I'm going to divide the 40 by 2, and we're going to get 20. So each of those missing sides is 20 and 20, and that gives us side CT. All right, flipping over to the next page, just a couple questions left. So question number 6. In triangle jet, angle E is congruent to angle T. So before I read any further, based just off of that information right there, do we know what type of triangle it is? Yes, we do. It's isosceles, so let's draw it out. Two equal angles, two equal sides. Mark everything that you can. Now, angle E is equal to angle T, so those go at the bottom, and J goes at the top. All right, now let's continue writing. JT is 15, and the perimeter is 70. What is the measure of side ET? Well, let's look at the picture. Is there anything else we can mark in the picture? We sure can, because side JE has a dash, just like the side with 15 on it. So this missing side also has to be 15. So now what we can do is we can take the perimeter, subtract off the two sides that we know for sure, which means the last side, the missing side, is going to be 40. So side ET is 40. All right, next up, I would like you to try question 7 on your own. So when you're done, you can go ahead, input your solution into the computer system, and then you can move on. All right, were you able to come up with 15? If you did, you have got it. All right, 2 final questions left for today's notes. Number 8. In triangle PET, angle P is 50 degrees and PE is congruent to side PT. What is the measure of angle T? So remember, when in doubt, draw it out. But before we draw it out, think carefully. What type of triangle is this? Well, we have 2 equal sides. If you have 2 equal sides, it has to be isosceles. So we're going to draw an isosceles triangle. And remember, if you have 2 equal sides, you also have 2 equal angles. Now, this one's a little bit trickier. We need to figure out where our letters are going to go. But this time, all we have are the 2 equal sides. Now, here's a little helpful hint for you. Look for the letter that is repeated. The letter P is repeated. That means P has to be the top because it's going to be used twice. So P to E has to be equal to P to T on the other side. Now that we have our picture, we can fill in the other information. So angle P is 50 degrees. We want to find the measure of angle T. Now, angle T is missing and angle E is missing. However, both of those are equal to each other. So I'm going to take the angles of a triangle, which is 180. I'm going to subtract off the 50 degrees that I know are already being used. and I get 130. So there's 130 degrees, but there's 2 angles left, and they're equal. So I'm going to divide it by 2, and we're going to get 65. So each of these angles is 65 degrees. And we've got our answer. All right, final question for today, number 9. In a triangle JKL, angle L is 36 degrees, and KL is congruent to KJ. So what is the measure of angle K? So for this question, we have 2 equal sides, which means it has to be isosceles. So we are going to make an isosceles triangle. We're going to draw 2 equal angles and 2 equal sides. Now you have to determine which angle is the vertex angle, the angle at the top. We'll look carefully which letter is repeated. Letter K. So K goes at the vertex, which means L and J are at your base. Now we can mark in the figure. So angle L is 36 degrees. Now careful, that's at one of the equal angles, so that means the other equal angle is also going to be 36 degrees. Now the angles of a triangle add up to 180. So what I'd like you to do now is go ahead and find the correct angle and input it in the answer key. All right, did you come up with 108 degrees? Very nice. You've accomplished today's goal of the day. At this point, if you haven't already done so, you can move over to today's practice. Remember, when you're done, you need to submit those answers on your Google form practice. All right, folks, have a great rest of your day.